Hey everybody, my name is Paul Eston Jr., aka Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. We're streaming live simultaneously in 3 different places: the Heavy on Jets Facebook page, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BoyGreen25, and of course on my Twitter account, @BoyGreen25. And you would think, wow, Paul, you're hopping on live on a Thursday, 4-2. Things must be going juicy. Things must be going spectacular, Paul. Wow, the Jets are the 3rd best team in the AFC, only behind Kansas City and Buffalo. Wow, pretty cool, right, Paul? Wow, this is fantastic, spectacular. All these great things are going well. Well, let me just give you the tweet that I sent out after hearing that Elijah Moore, he had demanded the old trade request. So again, with all those positive things happening, let me throw this on. So maybe this can help you guys laugh. If anything else, Jet fans reacting to Elijah Moore think, wow, we're 4-2 in the thick of the playoff race. Nothing could possibly go wrong. Insert Elijah Moore.
Surprise, motherfucker. Surprise, motherfucker. Surprise, motherfucker.
What the hell? I mean, come on, man. There it is, Elijah Moore coming in for his commentary on all of this. Surprise! Elijah Moore says, ha, 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 hold my beer, not so fast. Everyone thinks things are going well in Jets land. Well, to help break all this down for at least a little slice of this live stream, it'll be myself. I'll be on for about an hour. My guest that is joining me just now for this week, he normally joins me every Monday for a live breakdown of the Robert Saleh press conference and the weekend that was, is Will Parkinson, the host of the award-winning TOJ podcast. And he joins me right now here on the show. And that is Will Parkinson's handsome mug for an emergency show. I know Badlands just dropped an emergency podcast, so feel free if you guys enjoy the audio only. But here is a different version of it with a member of the TOJ team. Again, Will Parkinson, host of the Turn on the Jets podcast. Will, thanks for carving out the time on a Thursday, man.
Yeah, it's what a day, right? It's been it's been a while. They started with somehow getting into a huge argument over people being mad that the Jets will beat the Dolphins, which I'm not sure how this keeps happening, where we keep talking about this. And now we're dealing with Elijah Moore trade request. So great stuff. Great stuff.
100%. And I'm going to be honest, Will, I love seeing your handsome mug any day, but I'm going to be honest, I wish for tonight's purposes it was under better circumstances, quite frankly. So yes, in case all of you missed it, you're seeing this going, what in the flying hoot? Is this April Fool's Day? What's happening here? Let's try to kind of break down the story here of what happened and how, as in the wise words of Anchorman, that it escalated so quickly. So how did this all unfold? How did we get to right now at this moment that New York Jets wide receiver, second-year player Elijah Moore has officially requested a trade? What has transpired over the last couple of days, Will?
Yeah, so kind of encapsulating it, Elijah Moore led the team in targets last year, second-round pick. Big name in the locker room, superstar talent. The Jets obviously bringing Garrett Wilson, the running backs, the tight ends, all this talent. Gets some targets early on in the year, is running the most routes, I think, in football or whatever. He's 5th on the team in targets right now. Kind of encapsulated. He got some targets early in the Steelers game, then kind of went silent, didn't really have any more the rest of the games. That kind of went to Corey Davis more so, some Garrett Wilson reps, Tyler Conklin. Jets win. The Miami game, Jets don't throw the ball a ton, but it was kind of spread around. Elijah doesn't have his best game by any means. Didn't get a bunch of targets, but the targets he did get, obviously didn't make him necessarily count as much as normal. Last week happened. The Jets barely throw the football. They bludgeon the Packers. Probably should have won by 30. I think I said in the podcast, if that score line was 42-10, I don't think anyone would have been surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think that score line flattered the Packers. And obviously had 0 targets, had the 1 target where he was blanketed like a glove, but it was a penalty on the Jets anyway, so it wouldn't have counted. Then we get to Sunday night. Rich Cimini tweets, basically Elijah Moore had no targets, as we mentioned. He quote tweets it with, love my teammates, care about winning, that's all that matters. But if I say what I want to say, never mind, I won't say it. And then tweets like, it's all good. Everyone knows where I stand. You're like, okay, squash. I know I'm going slow here, but a lot of
that's okay. No. 100%. You need to walk us through so we understand.
Then Monday happens. Obviously, Robert Saleh gets asked about it. Robert Saleh's like, love Elijah, high character guy. That's that. we talked. Okay. Again, think it's over.
Right.
Tuesday, players are off. Doesn't really matter. Wednesday, Jets practice. Again, doesn't really matter. Thursday, the coordinators speak,
Right, correct. Yep.
Mike LaFleur speaks. Again, he basically says, no problem. Early in the day, Elijah tweeted something in the nature of love my teammates. God has a plan. Pretty normal stuff. I know the
Right.
love my teammates thing was very Jamal Adams-ish, but okay. Then where we get down to the nitty gritty, Elijah Moore's not out of practice, and this comes on the heels of 2 minutes earlier, AJ Brown tweeting, you've been through hard times, X, Y, and Z, this whole thing. Basically, probably tweeting for Elijah, not for. Not probably. He is tweeting for Elijah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. Yep.
Tweet gets deleted right away. Elijah's not at practice. Robert Saleh says it's a personal day. He's with family. It gets construed out to the media, myself and you included, and we tweet out, as much as what Saleh said. Again, I tweeted it. I'm pretty sure you did as well. I was like, there's nothing more to it right now. All we were told is
thoughts and love. Oh man,
hopefully everything's okay. Because if you're spending time with your family, personal day. I had texted with some people and I said, I'm pretty sure this is more so, like, tell me if I'm wrong. Is it more so cooler heads prevail? Go take the day. We'll take the day. We'll talk again. 100%. And everyone's like, that's what it is. And I was like, okay. Didn't feel like it was going to be anything more. Didn't feel the need to tweet it out because why would I? Wasn't like juicy news. It was just like what everyone kind of thought. Go take the
100%.
day.
Yep.
Practice is over. And Ian Rappaport gets the text from his agent. Obviously, that's for those people behind the glass wall,
right.
whatever. That's what happens. Elijah Moore didn't text Ian Rappaport as his agent and basically said frustrated, didn't get the ball, and wants more targets, wants to be used more, and is going to request a trade. Or has been he didn't request. He's asking to be traded.
Yeah, here's the tweet that's on the screen as people as you're talking here, Will. So people
and then Jets basically were like, no,
right,
as you would expect. And so now we're here. AJ Brown then tweets again, #free Elijah. You have the entire national media doing the lol jet. Zach Wilson sucks. Please free him. The fantasy community is doing, we want Joe Flacco back because it's better for them when the Jets are losing by 50 and throwing the ball 100 times and watching a statue get hit. This is all my opinion, by the way.
Right. Yep.
But,
I got you.
But yeah, so that's where we're at. The Jets are not going to trade Elijah Moore unless they get overwhelmed with some crazy offer. This is not how Joe Douglas works. Denzel Mims, with even less leverage, requested a trade in August. And guess what? And he's a guy that I think anyone would have said, can we get a 4th rounder back? And he's a year older, way less production. And the Jets were like, no. Bryce Hall wants to be traded. No. Let's go back to Marcus May a year ago at the trade deadline. It was literally probably this exact week where the Jets were struggling. Want to get traded? No. And then he tears his Achilles. The Jets are not just going to move off of people because that's not how Joe Douglas rolls.
Right. Not emotional.
And not emotional. He doesn't care. This is pretty much, I think this gets solved. Yes, it's frustrating. It's annoying. It kills all the great vibes you have going to the Denver game. Could it affect maybe how if he plays or not on Sunday? Potentially. Maybe, of course, you get the heel turn of Denzel Mims, the other guy that still has a trade request that. But lastly, obviously I'll turn it over to you. I think, look, he's super talented. The Jets value him. I'm sure they've made it clear to him. This is the locker room. I think Steve Young said it best. I believe he said it on Monday. He's like, this is the 4 or 5 big leaders in the locker room. I'm thinking of on an offensive side of the ball, it's a Corey Davis. It's a Laken Tomlinson. It's CJ Uzama. Probably those are the 3 offensive guys I would look to. And it's Michael Carter too. I know he's a young guy, so I would, they're friends. I don't, you never know. And then defensively, I look at a Carl Lawson, Sheldon Rankin, CJ Mosley, Marcus Joyner. He carries a huge voice in that locker room. Again, there's other guys, but those are the guys you kind of think of the big leaders. Even a Justin Hardy is a special teams guy that's a vocal leader. To pull him aside, which I'm sure they're doing. I'll try to find out more. But
awesome.
But I think it's going to be, dude, we need you. We're doing something special here. Are you in or you out? And if he's out, then you lose your teammates, and then it's done, and then he's going to get traded but he has no leverage. He's 17 games in. He's a guy who got hurt 3 times last year, if we're being honest, and hasn't produced this year in his limited, opportunities. I think he's got more, there's more schemed plays for him than anybody else so far. Garrett Wilson had the one big game, but other than that, he's been quiet. Corey Davis kind of in and out. I don't know. It's a frustrating situation. And I think if you're the Jets, you're going, why would we move him right now? His value is
100%.
He's got another 2 years plus on his contract. He's cheap. He's a homegrown guy. He's a well-respected. Like, I just think it gets solved. I just think for the next couple of days, it's going to suck, and they're going to have to push through it. But you want to see how strong the locker room is. I don't think this is a lull Zach Wilson or a lull Jet situation. It's not great, but until something really happens, look, Deebo Samuel requested a trade twice, and then A.J. Brown's like one of the only guys that really got traded. Everyone else, Jamal Adams, that's the difference, by the way. I just wanted to hit this one last thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Look, Jamal Adams, I know this is already getting comp to that situation.
Of course, naturally.
Jamal Adams was going to year 4, was at prime right in the middle of contract negotiations, so you kind of understood it. And second of all, he was a 3-time Pro Bowler and 2-time first-team All-Pro, and probably at the time, I know no one wants to admit this now, and I get it. Jamal has been frustrating, to say the least, with the Jets fans, but he was a top 5 defensive player in football in 2018 or 2019.
All the years blend together now.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
2019 year when they went 7-9, Jamal was exceptional. Like, it was one of the best. Like, so he had leverage. It was like, pay me or somebody else will trade for me. And guess what? They did, because he was that good. Elijah Moore is still a somewhat unproven commodity in NFL. He has no leverage. The Jets are not going to sell low. Again, Joe Douglas, this is not how he operates. So I've seen people criticize the Jets for investing too much in the receiver room. I don't know where these things are coming from, but anyways, yeah, I think he'll end up being fine, but it's frustrating. It's a bad look for more than anybody. But again, it fuels the lull Jets narrative of this happening over and over again.
Yeah, it's just incredibly unfortunate. I thought the initial tweet that caused all of this, quite frankly, was just a sign of immaturity from Moore, and that, again, something you can move on from, and, just a tweet and move on. The thing I want to ask in terms of the immediate, Will, do you expect him to play on Sunday? I've seen some chatter already from some of the reporters that there is an expectation he could be inactive on Sunday as they kind of go through this, and then again the Denzel Mims stands, Rise and the Undertaker gifts, Mims lives, and look at him, he requests a trade perhaps. But first off, just on the immediate, is Moore expected to play? Do you have any thought, or is it still too early in the week?
So I would say right now it's probably 50-50.
Okay.
Look, I don't know what's good. So this is what I think will be the determining factor. I think we'll know tomorrow at 2-3 o'clock. If Elijah shows up to the building, business as usual, which, look, I think Elijah is really well renowned by his teammates, by people around the league. I think anyone that's met him, I know people were tweeting about, some of the meetups he did with fans this summer and all this stuff, which what hurts more is everyone's so invested in him. It's not like even a Jamal Adams or a Sam Darnold, or these guys that have gotten traded, Leonard Williams, fans weren't really in on them anymore. It was kind of like they knew that this was coming. It just was unfortunate. Even Denzel Mims, I think people kind of soured on before the trade request came in. I would hope, at least, because he wasn't playing very well. But
right.
Elijah is a guy that is really well renowned. I mean, he's one of probably the most popular jerseys. Again, guy barely into year 2 here. I would say if he doesn't practice tomorrow again and he's not in the building, he's obviously not going to travel with the team on Saturday.
Right.
If he's in the building tomorrow, the Jets go. Michael Floyd pulls him in again and says, "Look, we're going to get you targets. I need you to be bought in. If you're bought in, I will get you the football." Cool, squash. I'm sure this stuff's already happened. It's going to have to happen again, obviously. There's 2 ways this is going to happen. It's going to be Elijah Moore plays on Sunday and probably has 7 catches for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right, yeah, and it's over, right.
Or it's over, or he's not going to travel. Remember, the trade deadline's less than 2 weeks away. I think that's
November 1st.
Yeah, it's part of the timing as well. So it's frustrating, but I think the Jets kind of have a lot of guys that play the same role, which is also part of the issue here. Look, maybe Denzel Mims comes in and plays and has a great week and someone trades for him, or he ends up being a part of this team.
Yeah.
Who knows? But wouldn't count on that, but you never know. The Giants game happened, right?
True. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
But look, I hope he plays Sunday. I hope this is something that the Jets go out and demolish Denver. And Elijah's a nice game, even though, look, Patrick Surtain's probably going to follow Garrett Wilson again, and there's going to be some opportunities for guys like Elijah. That's why this is also frustrating. It's this would be a perfect game for him to kind of get going not necessarily perfect, but he's not getting the attention maybe that Garrett Wilson or Corey Davis is right now. So teams are going to sell out for the run. If you're the Broncos, wouldn't you stack 7-8 in the box and say, make Zach Wilson beat me?
Right.
And again, I'm just reiterating this. I don't know what Elijah Moore thinks of Zach Wilson. I haven't asked him that in probably 6 months, so I'm not like I don't know anymore. Like it could have changed.
Sure.
But like this doesn't have to do with Zach. Like he had his biggest yardage game with Zach on the field. Like I do think Elijah wants to win, and I don't think he was like. I know I've seen some people. Oh, he was happy against the Bills last year when they got smoked because he had a touchdown. Like maybe, but I don't think Elijah's built like that. But again, maybe he is if this is the indication of what's at stake here. But this is 2022. People use social media and Twitter and trade requests. This isn't like, when me and you were kids and whatever, and a guy if a guy held out at camp, like he's getting moved. Like now it's like, okay, dude, hold out. Cool. We're not going to pay you. Jesse Bates held out the entire offseason. The Bengals were like, cool, not moving you. So
yeah. And now he's there. So, I think that's an important note. The one thing I do want to follow up on is timing, which I find fascinating. You mentioned the trade deadline, which, again, November 1st coming up. But the Jets, so Elijah Moore sends out this tweet. Remember, this is hours after the Packers game. So this is Sunday night when the first Elijah Moore domino drops. Robert Saleh speaks every Monday at 3:15. And again, we do our live stream normally together following that. Robert Saleh indicated that he had a conversation with Elijah Moore. Michael LaFleur today at his presser indicated he had a conversation. They all the parties involved said they wanted to keep that in-house. I mean, maybe not, but I feel like somewhat obviously to me, obviously that conversation did not go the way Elijah Moore wanted to, because coming out of those apparent conversations, now he's requesting a trade. So did the Jets staff, because again, it's hard to kind of interpret nuggets from LaFleur and others when they say they just want to keep it in-house and things of that nature. Did they just say, hey, suck it up, pal, we're winning right now, and you're going to get your chance when you get your chance, and then that rubbed Elijah the wrong way? Or are we reading too much into this about the timing of it coming off of those apparent conversations with the coaching staff? That's something that raised my eyebrow.
Yeah, so I'm interested too on kind of, it seems like the conversation went well. I think if you're the Jets, they're in a position of leverage, which they've very rarely been in for a long time now. I think, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but again, we've referenced some of those other trades, and even a Marcus May last year. I think that's the best example. The Jets had no leverage. Marcus May was an expiring contract. He was a homegrown guy that was producing, had produced at a Pro Bowl level for multiple years. The Jets were awful. And they just didn't really have any leverage. So it was like, you kind of were, in a sense, having to cave a little bit. The Jets didn't end up caving. Obviously, he ended up getting hurt. But this situation, like the Jets are a good football team right now. And like they're a team that, I know we talked about it a little bit, I think last week, like I don't expect them to be big buyers at the deadline. I think it'll be something where they maybe potentially buyers on, a veteran, an extra veteran swing tackle, or an extra veteran defensive tackle, or defensive end, or a linebacker, or something where like they need depth, but they're not a team that's like blowing it up and trying to like what are draft picks doing for the Jets now? Like they have so many young guys. They're not going to draft they're not going to have another 9-player draft where they can only pay so many people. I know the salary cap's a myth, but again, you got to stagger this a little bit. So, I just don't know what leverage he has. I think the Jets probably communicated like, we're not moving you. And he was like, well, give me the ball. I want to be moved. And they were like, no. And it's like, they'll smooth things over, but the Jets weren't going to be like, oh yeah, sure, dude, here's 200 targets on Sunday. Like they probably were like, this is the game plan. We're going to get you involved. You need to do this. We got to do this. I think cooler heads will prevail. I also just think this is what happens with the modern day athlete. I'm always pro player, but this is one of those situations where it's hard to like, I don't know. I'm not even just putting my fan goggles on. I just don't really get it. The timing is just, it has to be because of the deadline and being 11 days of like, I'm serious. I want the ball, or I'll request a trade. Joe Douglas was probably like, go request a trade then. And he did. I can just like, I feel like that's exactly
I could see that. Yeah. And again, that's the other thing is the Jets are winners of 3 in a row, and they've won without Elijah Moore. So to them, they're probably like, I don't, again, they love Elijah Moore and they wanted to be here. And Elijah Moore initially, we don't know. We haven't heard from Elijah Moore outside of cryptic tweets. So again,
I'll share a little nugget on here.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. I love nuggets.
Speaking with some people in the building.
Yep.
Wouldn't worry about it. He's fine. This is just being blown up. It's basically I want the ball more. Like
That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
Because when you say that, like, so again, a trade request could do one of two things. Again, show you're serious that I really want out. I'm going to temper tantrum till I get out. Or it's the closest line you could get to the sun of saying, give me the ball. This is how serious I am. And just get me the ball. Again, I don't think that's the most mature thing in the world to do if you want to say, get me the ball. But that also seemingly what it indicates there.
Yeah, I think it's basically just like he's like, everyone's like, he's fine. It's literally, this is just like, but this is what you like in today's game. This is the leverage you have as a player, right? You're not, Elijah's not going to not show up. You don't get paid. That's, that's the whole holding.
Especially the rookie contract. He is screwed from that.
He has no leverage. So
once
he's going to go to the Jets and say, I want the ball more. And if they go, you're part of the game plan, the next thing you do as a guy in the NFL today, it's not like, again, you can't just not show up or hold out. It's then trade me. I wouldn't make a bigger deal. I mean, I get why it's a huge deal, but like, there's just no press. There's nothing in Joe Douglas's tenure with the Jets. Now we're on, halfway into year 4, and he's never once caved other than Jamal Adams, which he didn't even really cave because
he got the amazing offer.
Right. He got an offer that the offer you can't refuse. Like it's it's
that's
not, it. It's so I just wouldn't. I wouldn't worry.
Well, that's amazing to hear that. That's amazing to hear that. And
maybe I'm wrong, but this is what's. I mean,
that's what you're hearing, and that's great. Like I said, we'll clip that, throw that on Twitter, try to quiet down some of the people later. Will, I know you have a limited amount of time, so I do want to just dive into this nugget again from everything you're gathering, from what I'm gathering. I don't see the Jets trading Elijah Moore under any circumstance. Like, again, he was a second-round pick. He's cheap. He's on a rookie contract. And then the other factors that, again, as you said, he was banged up last year. He's done nothing this year. Who is going to give up something and for what? Like, I'm not saying he has no value. I'm just saying it's a complicated thing for the New York Jets. But with that being said, I must dabble since he officially requested a trade. What would be the offer that would get the Jets to think about it? Because right now I assume that Joe Douglas, within all reason, is going to pick up the phone on anybody like outside of Zach Wilson. But like, what would be the offer that all of a sudden he goes, I'll call you back? What is it? What would it have to be? I know we're speculating here, but what is that?
Laramie Tunsil or a 1 or something?
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
A superstar tackle or no, probably a 1, I assume. Right, like
just a 1, a first round. I'm not trying to go crazy here.
I mean, I'm just thinking about it. I'm just thinking about it from the Jets' perspective. You invested the 34th overall pick. If you got and he's produced. If you got a 1 back right now, like I guess you probably go, I don't even know if you take that.
Yeah, right.
Maybe it's a 1 and a player, a 1 and a conditional 4. But like he's got superstar potential as a receiver. He's 22 and he's cheap. Maybe it's more than that. I mean, you would have to get at least. He was 34th, if I'm not mistaken, right? He was 34th.
That's correct.
Overall.
He was 34th overall.
You'd have to get at least his draft slot.
100%. If you get anything less, it's a complete, utter disaster. Minimum. Because, again, he's proven to be better than the 34th overall. Now, how much better? I don't know. He's shown a lot of potential, and I think he could be really good. But, again, to your point, I think it has to be at least more than that, or else you're again, I don't want him to be traded at all. But if that does happen, I would be dissatisfied if somehow it was less than the 34th overall pick.
Yeah, Joe Douglas, like, think about it. Like, Joe Douglas I know people make a big deal out of it, and I'm not saying Joe Douglas is perfect. I'm obviously been a critic of him in the past for some of the moves, but does he ever not get his price?
100%, right. We haven't seen it yet. I mean,
maybe everyone, I guess, everyone doesn't, not everyone, like, whatever, so I guess everyone misses some time, but I don't see Joe Douglas missing on this one.
Right. Can you imagine that? So he gets 2 firsts for Jamal Adams, and all of a sudden he gets like garbage for Elijah Moore. I mean, I don't foresee that as possible. Again, to me, that would be wild. Will, we got to get you out of here, right?
Yeah, I got 2 minutes, but other than that, I'll be
okay, yeah. So sure, I'll see if there's any crazy questions in here or any final.
If there's 1 or 2, I'll knock out before.
Yeah, sure. Then we'll get you out of here. By the way, thank you so much for this emergency pod. I'm like, Will, and they're like, let's do this.
Let's do it.
So there it is. So Will, we love it here. So guys, if you have any last second questions here for Will, we'll get them in before we get it out. A lot of fans seem to be upset. I guess I'll throw one in on this on the Denzel Mims stands in our audience. What are the chances that you think? So if Elijah's inactive, I have to assume that Denzel Mims would be active. Would this just be a great Joe Douglas, absolute celebration if Denzel Mims steps up and is active and then delivers, and then he can either immediately trade him or somehow he becomes a key part of this team moving forward. What do you think is most likely out of those scenarios for all those people squinting?
This would be the ultimate Joe Douglas move.
Wouldn't it?
Okay?
Yeah.
Elijah Moore doesn't play Sunday.
Right.
Denzel Mims has a nice game. He then trades Denzel Mims for like a 3 or 4. Elijah Moore is back in the fold for the Patriots game, and he somehow boosts Mims' value, and the Jets are fine, and they win. Like,
beautiful.
The ultimate chef's kiss, I feel like would be happen.
100%. Last thing, and this will get you out of here. What do you make of A.J. Brown? So A.J. Brown and Elijah Moore have been friends forever. Again, former teammates. You saw the viral A.J. Brown draft video, of course. And we saw today that you mentioned some of the A.J. Brown back and forth, some deleted tweets here and there about the latest one, of course, is A.J. Brown tweeting out #FreeElijah, quote tweeting the Ian Rappaport tweet we showed earlier about the trade request in general. Is he just a bad influence? Because, again, he just pulled this off in Tennessee. Is that like having bad people around him and he's kind of influencing Elijah Moore, kind of whispering in his ear? What do you make of that relationship and the impact that A.J. Brown could be having on Elijah Moore and all this?
So I think, look, A.J. was obviously in a much different position, had to get paid.
Of course.
Had already seen other guys get paid.
Yeah,
production, been in the league longer. But I think A.J. called to ask the Titans to call his bluff, and the Titans are run by Mike Vrabel, who's a Patriots guy, and said, okay, F off. That's not what's going to happen here. And this isn't about getting paid. So I think that's part of the issue is like,
right. He can't be paid.
Yeah, he can't be paid for a while. So I think this is more of just A.J. Brown's been through it. He's like, this stuff works. If you go on social media and people will freak out, and people are freaking out. We're doing a podcast
right now about it. Yeah, so, I know.
Look, they're best friends. They've talked about it on and on. It's not surprising to see A.J. Brown tweet for, somewhat for Elijah in a sense. If I'm a little surprised, I'm curious to see what Michael Carter, kind of how he handles this, because they're very outspoken as best buds. He's on the team. He's a guy that's a leader in the locker room. I'm curious how it'll kind of like if we hear from him at all in the next couple of days, like what happens. But I think this thing gets solved. Again, I could be wrong, but just kind of my understanding is there's no the confidence is in the building is this is fine from what I've been told. But again, I'm just a loser without a check mark. So
yeah, that's right. That is coming inevitably. By the way, Robert Sauer speaks tomorrow. Normally that's tomorrow morning. Again, they have to travel for Denver, so we'll see how that is affected, of course, by the Elijah Moore news if that changes it. So we'll hear from him and players and others tomorrow on the show. Will, thanks a billion. You're the best in the business. Thanks for carving out the time. Before we get you out of here, of course, platform time. Anything you'd like to promote here? And thank you again for the time. Carving out, brother.
Of course, man. I appreciate it. Just turn on the Jets podcast, TOJ Pod. Got an episode to drop today with Benjamin Brown from PFF. We just talked about he thinks the Jets are an 11-win team and will be a contender in the AFC this year. So if you like positivity from PFF, which I guess has not been a lot of, then make sure you tune into that. Saturday, Ben Albright, friend of your show as well, will be on the show for a special Saturday episode. And I'll be back on Monday with you, and we'll get things rolling hopefully at 5-2.
All right, beautiful. Will, thanks, brother. We'll check you later, man.
Thanks, everybody.
There he is, Will Parkinson, WillPot11. Feel free to follow him on Twitter. Guys, we're not going anywhere. Now, normally, after we get off, with an interview guest, we leave. However, we're going to keep this train rolling, so let's keep it going. I'm going to be on for another 20, 30 minutes and change here. So, guys, this is our opportunity to talk about this. And, yes, I'm seeing Hennessy Heisman that, Jake Asman is going crazy, and we will see. By the way, I just did an interview with Jake tomorrow. That interview with Jake drops tomorrow on the channel. We did talk a little bit about this Elijah Moore stuff, but not quite to this level. I'll say this, a couple of my thoughts, and guys, feel free. This is an interactive show, so feel free to get involved on the Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Like the video, hit subscribe down below for more content, for more comments, and we have an Elijah Moore article already up on Heavy on Jets talking about this and some of your guys' reactions on social media to all of this. I will say, I love Elijah Moore. incredibly talented, a great story of getting this guy in the second round. We heard the great Connor Hughes athletic story of remembering all the receivers that went in front of him. A great story. And Jets getting a homegrown talent that's really good and really talented. We don't get that all the time, so it felt like a new era. But I have to say this bluntly, that the Jets winners of 3 in a row, they have an opportunity here in Denver to go to 5-2. Teams that are 5-2 since 1990 have made the playoffs 76% of the time. This is a beautiful time for the New York Jets. They're on the precipice of doing something really special. What is that? I don't know, but this is a potential situation that could upset the apple cart. On the other side of the coin, this could be a rallying point for this team to say, okay, we're going to figure out this Elijah Moore situation. We have a lot to get to here, but I have to say that this just comes off incredibly selfish from Elijah Moore. It comes off selfish. It comes off as a guy that's not about winning, because it would be one thing if he was pulling my boy T.O., who's a great follower of mine on Twitter as well, but it'd be one thing if he was a T.O. and your team was losing and Elijah Moore said, use me. You know, and I love T.O. for that. I love when T.O. said, use me, I can help you win more games. Okay, when the Jets are winning, that falls on deaf ears. The Jets are winning with their strategy. Now, it's not featuring Elijah Moore on a play-to-play basis, obviously, but they're winning games. They have won 3 in a freaking row. They have a chance to win 4 in a row. They have a chance to continue to be in the thick of the NFL playoff race. And now you have a receiver who checks notes, is going into his second year, and all of a sudden is whining about getting a little bit more opportunity. Again, the thing that hurts me is the team is winning, okay? If they weren't winning, I'd be willing to listen more to Elijah Moore and listen to his story to try to understand what's going on. It's hard to do that when the team is winning. So that to me is incredibly tough. In terms of the trade request in general, I'll say this. I'm not trading Elijah Moore. I know that some of you, I see you running through the comments again. I'll try to get to as many of these as possible. Also, on YouTube, feel free to YouTube Super Chat. Your comment gets highlighted. You give a little tip to the show and help us keep everything working here. And we appreciate the support. That'll guarantee your comment gets answered. I know we have hundreds of comments in here, and this is a safe place. So feel free to vent, comment, rant, question, whatever you have. I will say this in Elijah Moore in terms of the trade request. I'm not trading him anywhere. First off, you can't get value. He was a second-round pick initially. He's super cheap. But even if it's a first-round pick, like let's say the Packers call and say, hey, we'll give you a first-round pick, which will probably be a late first, despite what they're doing right now. I think the Packers are going to turn it around. They're really talented. They got Aaron Rodgers. They offer a late first. Like, how does that help us now? The Jets aren't in tank mode. I don't know about any of you, but I haven't looked at one gosh darn mock draft this entire time. Not this season. Why? The Jets are winning. I don't care about a future draft pick. Elijah Moore can help this team right now. Not in 5 years, not in 10 years, right now. Why would I trade a piece that is helping us win right now? The Jets team is 4-2. Why would I do that? Why would I escape? Why would I go away from that? That to me is wild. So I'm not entertaining that. Now, Will brought up an interesting one. If somehow the Houston Texans offer Laramie Tuttle and a draft pick, and he's a franchise left tackle, we don't really know what's happening at tackle with all the pieces moving around. Okay, maybe you get a player and a pick that can help. But I have to be honest here that I'm not open to moving Elijah Moore unless someone blows my socks off. And even then, I don't know if I want to do it. I don't think that sends a great message that, you know, all of a sudden a young player stomps his feet and throws a temper tantrum. All of a sudden you send him off to Siberia regardless of the package you get. So for me, I'm not really open to trading Elijah Moore. I'm keeping him on the roster. Now, whether they make him a healthy scratch on Sundays or he can sit on his feelings and figure it out and watch a team win again in Denver, that's one thing. But for me, I don't think I'm going to be I don't think I'm going to do it. Thomas Cahill here with the YouTube Super Chat. Again, that's available for all of you on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BoyGreen25. Make sure you get your comment answered and you support the show. And you get a huge shout out from me. So, Thomas, thanks, brother, for supporting. He went to the dark side. He will be a failure going forward. Cut bait and fish. Again, Thomas, I respect you, man. And that's the part of it that we have to discuss here. Again, I'm not willing to trade Elijah Moore right now. And the main reason is while there's all this hoopla right now, social media, trade requests, this or that, as far as we know, he's a team guy. I know all these, the trade requests in general, all this other stuff indicates that he is not a team guy and that he's incredibly selfish and all these other things. But right now, he hasn't started, burning bridges in the locker room and going crazy. Now, if that happens, right, as Will Parkinson suggested, if several of the veteran team leaders like C.J. Mosley, Uzama, and all these other guys come to Elijah and said, come on, dude, calm down. We're winning, man. You could be a special part of something. And if he rallies with the team, then it's all groovy and gravy, baby. But if he says, nah, man, I want out of here, screw you guys, at that point, and he starts burning bridges, then you'll have no choice. Well, you'll have a choice, but you'll, in theory, really have no choice. You're going to have to trade him and get the best possible offer. And I imagine a lot of teams would be interested because Elijah Moore's pretty talented. So if he burns bridges, Thomas, I'm with you. If he's not with the team, he's not willing to be a part of the team, I'm willing at that point to potentially move him. But until we get to that point, I think that is the ultimate last resort for this football team moving forward. But I love the super chat, pal. Thank you so much for that. So again, to me, I'm not moving Elijah Moore. I'm not trading him unless he starts burning bridges and going crazy. So for that, I'm just not willing to go to that point. And we will see how this progresses. Now, again, I feel like this is an easy fix. And the one thing that does kind of, again, sit with me wrongly is the fact of the matter, and we talked about with Will. So, again, here's the timeline to repeat what happened. Elijah Moore on Sunday, hours after the game. Remember, we all know, the Jets beat the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau 27-10. Multiple scores. Elijah Moore decides to hop on the Twitter. Please, do like Zach Wilson, delete your social media apps during the season, please. But I digress. He decides to hop on the Twitter and say, man, essentially I'm paraphrasing, but, wow, didn't get any targets. And I believe he deleted all those tweets, by the way. But he said, man, didn't get any targets. Weird. I don't understand. So again, going to Twitter for that is incredibly immature. Apparently, after he has a tweet on Sunday night, Robert Sauer meets the next day and says, I already spoke with Elijah. He's a competitor, not a bad bone in his body, and all these other things that he said. And said, you know what? We're cool. We figured it out. He's good. And then Mike LaFleur today and others all said, no, don't worry. We talked to him. We're going to keep all that in-house, of course, but, good to go. And we're going to try to get him more involved, all this other stuff. We're going to figure it out. Something has to have happened and transpired in that meeting with the coaches that he said, like the coach say, hey, man, we're winning. This is working. We'll get you a little bit more involved here. Again, I said earlier in the week that you should put him in the slot and get him some easy gimme throws, get him revving. Because, again, Elijah Moore's talented, and getting the ball in his hands is good for business. And apparently, whatever they told them was not great, no bueno, because apparently immediately after today, after speaking with Mike LaFleur and all those guys, he requested a trade. So, again, it just comes off bad. And I wonder what they told him in that meeting, and maybe we'll get some more insight from Robert Sauer tomorrow after now that Elijah Moore has requested a trade. But I'm going to be honest, this is an incredibly sad moment for me as a Jets fan, and I cover the team, of course. But we're here on October 20th, 7:43, live. And again, if you guys are watching after the fact, thank you. We appreciate it. That we're wasting time talking about a young player on the team demanding me. I love me some me. And I love all the divas in NFL history of T.O.s, Ochocinco's. I love all those guys. Great characters in the league. But that we're wasting time in the middle of the Jets winning 3 in a row. 4-2. They matter. Featured in the top 10 NFL power rankings. Yet, classic Jets, we have to be talking about this. And again, to me, that sucks more than anything. And it's, again, incredibly selfish by Elijah Moore. It's that one hurts for sure. Let's get to another YouTube super chat. And wowzer, with the gold color coming in, Chris Cade the fifth. Again, this is open for all you guys. I think Salah's locker room will bring him back in. If he doesn't want to be here after that, RIP or rip the Band-Aid and be done. I love Moore, but he's expendable. We're winning, and those who matter don't mind. I agree with you, Chris. I think that's got to be it. I don't think, maybe it's Salah directly, but I think, as well said, and he well said, by the way, that the veteran leaders on the team go to Moore and figure this out player to player. Salah made an interesting comment at a previous press conference saying he normally doesn't trot through the locker room. And it's not because, he's not a player's coach or anything. He lets the locker room handle the locker room. Players handle themselves. Now, there's situations, obviously, as the CEO, a head coach of the team, of course, he deals with them, but he lets the players run things as they should. It's not inmates running the asylum. It's not that crazy. It's a good strategy if, not going through their area. That's their domain. And if they want to come to his office, his door's open. So I think the leaders will put their arms around a young Elijah Moore, an immature Elijah Moore, and say, hey, pal, look at the bigger picture here. You're a young kid, man. You're not Megatron. You're not some Hall of Famer yet. You got to prove yourself, young buck. And don't worry, when the ball comes to you, make plays. And you'll continue to make plays. We're winning football games. So I do agree with you, Chris. I think that's the strategy here. However, if that part goes south, you may have to, quote unquote, rip the Band-Aid and be done. He is expendable from the standpoint that the Jets are winning football games without him. He's not contributing in any major way. And guess what? They're winning football games. However, I will say this. Elijah Moore is stupid talented. I don't want any of us fans to forget that. And I get it. It's the team over the eye. And I predominantly have always defended the team over any player in history. Even like a great example is my boy Thomas Jones, who gave a lot of great years to the New York Jets. I've had him on my show before. I love Thomas. And he follows me on Twitter. Love that guy. However, when the Jets decided to cut him and not give him his $5 million roster bonus or whatever it was, and he ended up playing for the Chiefs and then kind of going out of the league, a lot of people, fans, were like, man, poor Thomas. And I felt that way a little, but I'm like, hey, man, got to look out for the team, the brand, the logo. Got to look out for the logo. And in this particular case, I think Elijah Moore can help the logo. When he's going, the team's good. He's a talented receiver. And think about it. If you move Elijah Moore for whatever you move him for, you have Garrett Wilson, that's good. Corey Davis is entering the last year of his contract next year. All of a sudden, your supposed depth you have disappears like that. So I think that's something to keep in mind as well. Great comments, Chris K. the Fifth on YouTube, guys. Thank you so much for the support here. I will say this, for all the Denzel Mims fans in our audience, baby, stock up. Again, you're cryogenically frozen, he being Denzel Mims, and has been for the last bunch of weeks. He's been a healthy scratch, but he's a healthy scratch until this. He's a healthy scratch until injuries, until those things happen, and that's why Joe Douglas didn't trade him for a half-eaten Snickers bar, okay? It's for situations like this to have him ready. Probably not specifically for situations like this, but nonetheless, they all make sense. So you have to make sure that you're prepared for these scenarios. And Denzel Mims will have his chance. Now, what he does with it, we'll see. But it is interesting, though, that as Will Parkinson mentioned, that'd be a very Joe Douglas move. Elijah Moore gets a healthy scratch because of all the distractions this week. Fine, doesn't play in Denver. You play Denzel Mims, he goes off, you trade him, and then Elijah Moore is all happy for that home game against the New England Patriots. Or Denzel Mims is so good, you're like, man, we got to get Denzel Mims some run. So either way, I think will be very interesting to see how that plays out. But I am really, again, it is really bothersome that Elijah Moore has requested a trade today, in case you guys missed it. And man, it's tough. Yeah, there goes Skills Baby with Mims season Lego. Yes, sir. Dust off the Denzel Mims jerseys from the closet if you guys have those. It's awesome. It's awesome. Let's bring up this, because this was another topic with Elijah Moore, that Elijah Moore requests a trade, right? And because he's not getting enough targets, and that would be a direct indictment on the quarterback, Zach Wilson. Now, I'm going to say this. While some people may not be fans of Zach Wilson, not sold on him as George Hoover, I'll use you as the example. There's hundreds of comments that are talking about Zach Wilson here, but I'll use you, George, and thank you for tuning in as a comment here. You don't have to be sold on Zach Wilson, because this show is not just all hoopla and positivity. I'm a glass half full guy, but I believe we call it how we see it. Obviously, Zach Wilson hasn't proven to be some unbelievable Patrick Mahomes superstar yet. Now, I have no concerns so far, because I think it's the maturation of a young quarterback that he's doing what the team needs. Against Pittsburgh, they needed the team to be on his back in the fourth quarter to win that game. And people have short-term memory loss. He did that. He won that game for the Jets, fourth quarter. Okay? So that was a critical piece of the puzzle. Against the Dolphins, he had one touchdown, but really, if you squint, he had 3 total touchdowns. The dynamic of the Jets beating the Miami Dolphins, a divisional opponent and division in general, they've lost 12 straight games in, okay? I think the perception is a lot different if the Jets beat the Dolphins 40-17, same score, but Zach Wilson has 3 total touchdowns in the blowout win. People perceive that differently, and the difference is 2 yards. Breece Hall was tackled twice at the 1 yard line, and those would have been passing touchdowns from Zach Wilson to Breece Hall. However, those did not happen, and then we say, wow, Zach Wilson's only thrown insert touchdown. Again, the perception changes dramatically based on those factors. So that's one thing. And the other thing is this, the Jets are winning. Why should Zach Wilson just start throwing it all over the barnyard to impress a couple of fans or do this for the Sports Center highlight, And then what, they lose? So, okay, would you rather have Zach Wilson throwing for 300 yards in this and they lose to the Packers? Of course not. You want wins by any means necessary, especially for me. The Jets have had one winning season in 11 years. I want winning no matter what way it comes. And in this particular case, I like it. They're winning. And when Zach Wilson is called upon to start throwing around the ball yard, when is that going to happen, by the way? I'm not sure. They've got Denver this week, an incredibly tough defense. They have New England the next week, who's rated middle of the pack, but we all know Bill Belichick. Then you have Buffalo, tough defense. Bye week, New England again. So you have some tough defenses coming up. So I don't know if the Zach Wilson coming out party is this week, next week, the week after, the second Patriots matchup. I have no clue, no idea. Now, if you were a betting man, you'd probably be Detroit defense, questionable. Seattle defense, questionable. Bears, Jaguars, all these other teams coming up on the schedule. Maybe those are the coming out party for Zach Wilson. But I'm not so sure it comes here in the Denver game, and maybe that's something Elijah Moore sensed when he saw the game plan for this week. Again, that is unclear. But I'll tell you this, that Zach Wilson, oh yeah, there you go. Tinder hot dating site getting on the show. I'll tell you this, George, that you don't have to be sold on Zach Wilson yet, but he's done nothing, at least in my opinion, to show all of a sudden he's not the guy. He's still has not played a full 17-game season yet when you compare last year and this year. He hasn't had a full calendar to appreciate and try to develop and get to the next level. I'm not making an excuse for the guy. It's just truth. It's just truth. And they're winning right now, so do the strategy that is working. So I don't buy the Zach Wilson, this stuff, because, again, if I have my numbers right, Zach Wilson is the one, by the way, that gave Elijah Moore his best yardage output of the season. That was in the Dolphins game where he had 50-something yards. It was his best game. Zach Wilson was at quarterback, not Joe Flacco. Not Joe Flacco. So that would be my take on a few of those items. The A.J. Brown stuff, again, I mentioned it earlier. Again, A.J. Brown, Elijah Moore, close friends, former Ole Miss teammates. A.J. Brown, after Ian Rappaport tweeted out this, and I'll throw it back up on the screen for those who missed it. This is from Ian Rappaport breaking the trade news or trade request news from one Elijah Moore. Let me take down your comment real quick here, George, so people can read it. Oh, excuse me. Bring this back up and take this one off. All right, so you guys see this from Ian Rappaport. This is from earlier today. Jets wide receiver Elijah Moore, frustrated with his role and usage, has asked for a trade. The team has no plans at all to trade him. The former second rounder was targeted once in the win over the Packers, but the play was negated by a penalty. So really, he was targeted 0 times on the official stat sheet. And again, I would simply say this. Ride the wave, because it's going to come the other side. But I don't think Zach Wilson has shown anything yet that would lead you to doubt him in any way if you didn't believe in that before. JW, if we get a first rounder for Elijah, I'd be thrilled. And again, I think he's super talented. There's no way, again, if he's going to be traded, I think it blows over. I think they figure all this out. But there's no way in hell that you could trade Elijah for anything less than what you drafted, which was the 34th overall pick. So it would have to be a second and change, because I'm not trading him exactly for what he got. It would have to be more for me for that deal to even go through, because it would be a total egg on the face of one Joe Douglas if that were to happen. But some people would be okay with the first rounder. I'll also say that his buddy, again, A.J. Brown, being that guy that's whispering in his ear, who successfully asked for a trade and then kind of fired his way out of town to Tennessee and ended up in Philadelphia. Working out great for him. Obviously, the Eagles are undefeated and all that jazz. But them being best friends and him constantly whispering in their ear since Elijah Moore and A.J. Brown talk on a daily basis, that to me is a little concerning. So I'm not loving A.J. Brown whispering all those things to him. That I'm not in love with from that. I'm seeing a lot of blame A.J. Brown here. All A.J. Brown's fault. And Rich Amini's fault for starting the fire, apparently. Yes, I see all you people in here. That's great. Let's see. MC, Moore is 100% correct. LaFleur sucks. I will say this about the Moore stuff. Obviously, they've misused him. Now, that's fair. And I think a lot of things can be true. I don't think there has to be absolutes like Elijah Moore's clearly right or the Jets are clearly right. I think oftentimes in life, the truth is somewhere in between. The Jets aren't using him correctly. Strictly outside. He can play outside, but strictly outside is nonsense. You got to use him in the slot. That's where he was successful in college. Get him across the middle, mismatches, get him going, crossers, bubble screens, jet sweeps. There's a lot of creative ways you could get him the ball. So I think Moore is right from that standpoint that LaFleur has not been using him properly. That's true. You can also say Elijah Moore's being incredibly immature. I think both things can be true, and selfish. The immaturity was the tweet. The selfishness is perpetuating this story in the middle of a 3-game winning streak. That is diva material, and I never thought that Elijah was a diva, to be honest. So this is stunning. If you would have told me that this was going to happen, I'm like, okay, who? Elijah? No way. Like, I just never would have thought. I don't know Elijah Moore personally, but gathering intel, we did our draft story on him when he came out and spoke with Ole Miss people, and we've kind of seen his career develop and blossom here a little bit, a year and a half in. Like, from all the conversations I've had, he seemed like a stand-up guy. So the diva stuff is incredibly surprising, and that's what it appears to be so far. Again, we'll see how Robert Saleh responds to this. He will be speaking on that action tomorrow. We'll have to double check. Normally the Friday press conferences are in the morning. I will see if this is updated in some way with Elijah Moore's trade request. Maybe the Jets decide to speak sooner, later. We'll have to see how this develops. But Joe Douglas is not a guy that can be pushed around. Jamal Adams didn't come in his office and say, trade me, and then you traded him immediately. Joe Douglas is a man of whatever the word is. He draws his line in the sand. He sticks to it. Like, he's not going to get pushed around. Elijah Moore's not going to go into his office and say, hey, Tubby, you better trade me yesterday to this team. Like, Joe Douglas is going to be like, eat me, get out of my office. Like, there's no way in hell that he's going to move him like that. So I would not anticipate, even if they were to trade him, that to move in some quick fashion, unless they were just blown away with an offer, which, again, I don't see coming. So, I am on the board of not trading Elijah Moore at all, but I'm sure a lot of teams would be interested because guess what? Elijah Moore is stupid talented from that standpoint. But again, we need him. While we haven't needed him yet, I think there will be a moment where the Jets need him this season because eventually they're going to have to pass the ball. They haven't had to pass it yet, but eventually they will have to pass the ball. And when they do, Elijah Moore will be a featured piece of that puzzle. And absolutely, he should be because he is incredibly talented. Guys, again, it's just, it sucks that we're coming to you in this form and fashion. If you guys just want to ignore all the nonsense and get ready for the game, we spoke to Phil Milani, the Denver Broncos reporter, team reporter, earlier this week on the channel. Feel free, guys, to go check that out. It's also available wherever you find your podcast, audio-only version. Just simply search for The Jet Zone to get ready for Jets Broncos. I still think, despite the hoopla that's going on, I am reiterating I believe the Jets will go into Denver and win this game. I think my prediction was 22-10, somewhere in that ballpark. I believe the Jets are going to win this game. Again, I don't think Elijah Moore flips the needle one way or the other. He hasn't been a determining factor in wins or losses so far this season. I don't believe that will happen in Denver, especially against a tough defense where the Jets are going to want to run the football and selectively pass. But I thought it would be a good opportunity for Elijah in yak opportunities, get the ball in his hands and see ultimately what he does with it. But I do believe the Jets still win this game, but we'll have to see. This is interesting territory that Joe Douglas is familiar with Joe Douglas. We're requesting a trade. We had Denzel Mims request a trade earlier, and from what I've heard, there may be I will leave you guys on this. There may be another Jets player that may soon be requesting a trade. I can't divulge details until anything becomes official, but there may be one additional player that is not a starter. There's another player who may be frustrated with their lack of PT, and he may be requesting a trade that could be coming out tomorrow. So there's your nugget, everybody. And if and when that happens, of course, we will discuss that in further detail when we're given the green light to do so. So there may be another player. So there's a lot happening here with Elijah Moore requesting a trade, Denzel Mims requesting a trade. You got a little bit of unrest there. We will see if the Jets can somehow overcome a lot of this because there's a lot of good stories happening with the Jets. Quinnen Williams. Okay, you have Quinnen Williams. You have the Jets winning 3 games in a row. There's a lot of positivity with everything that's going on. And I would hate for this current situation, the one that I've been given a little bit of a hint on, we'll have to see how a lot of those develop. And hopefully this doesn't upset the apple cart because you can imagine the Denver Broncos, for instance, are a team with Russell Wilson that they're talented, man. You can't just overlook Denver. The offense is played like crap and the defense is really good. But if the Jets are at all distracted by any of the hoopla that's going on right now, they could easily go into Denver and lose. This could be the quote-unquote get-right game for Denver, and the Jets got to make sure that they don't allow that to happen. They got to stay focused, and hopefully they could squash this story and any future stories that may be coming out. Guys, thanks for joining us for this emergency show, streaming live on the Heavy on Jets Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and Twitter account. Make sure you like the video, hit subscribe down below for more phenomenal content. We always appreciate your guys' support. And again, we're live after every single post-game show, 2 hours after the post-game. Remember, this Jets-Broncos game is a 4:05 kick, so it'll be a late-night post-game stream for us on Sunday. So again, 4:05 kick, and we will see you guys later. And we'll see if you guys can guess who that player maybe is. Feel free to throw that in some of the comments, and I'll try to respond to those once we get off air. But thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time right here on Boy Green's YouTube channel, my Twitter account, and the Heavy on Jets Facebook page. Thanks.